Hey guys, my name is Josh Webb, and welcome to this special roundtable that we're going to talk a little bit today about kind of the state of marketing and branding in a world where everybody has to stay at home. As a conversation topic that we've just talking about, it's like you see this so many times in your email inbox, you're almost not paying attention to it at this point. But I wanted to bring some friends around me and just have conversations about what their clients are doing and what people with different expertise what they're doing. And so I've brought those people together. And so I just wanted to welcome Jim Vinyard, and I don't have a sound effect for like an applause.
Yeah.
Like, woo! Mike Kovak and Savannah Abney. And like I said, I'm Josh Webb. So, hey, to get this whole thing started, why don't we kind of go around the virtual table, maybe starting with Mike. And can you explain just a little elevator pitch of who you are, where you've been, how you got here, that kind of stuff?
Sure. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining and paying attention. And so yeah, briefly, I spent about 30 years in the advertising, sales, marketing space, event planning and management space. And I've been working with Jim for a while now and really kind of serving our clients' needs around social media, digital media marketing, and event talent management, event management, and then speaker marketing management. So it's certainly been an exciting ride. And as we're going to kind of this new uncharted territory, I think having and sharing some ideas like this is a really smart decision.
Awesome. Yeah. So, Jim, I'll leave it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of decades. I'm not going to say how old I am, but a couple of decades in the large-scale event world, mostly everything in Atlanta that has been there, Super Bowls, World Series, conventions, concerts.
Little stuff.
Did that for 20. Yes, sir?
Little stuff. Just little stuff like that.
Just little stuff. And then was in the nonprofit space with a high school buddy of mine for about 6 years, traveling the world doing some logistics in a different way. But just, I come from an advertising background. My dad owned an agency and grew up in that world. And I went to school for graphic art, old school graphic art. But just kind of brought all my resources and talents together and started a VCG experience company about a year ago and loving every minute of it.
Awesome. Hey, Savannah, how you doing?
How's it going?
Good.
I don't have quite as much experience as everybody else at this virtual table, but so my background is in communications with an emphasis in PR, but I really found my niche as a content writer, and I'm having so much fun with it.
Cool. And I'm Josh Webb. So a little bit of my background. I've been in digital marketing since I think it might have been a thing since around 2000. Worked with companies like Universal Studios and Royal Caribbean and Johnson & Johnson, place like that. And then I've also worked with a ton of nonprofits and small business and now just really help, basically startups and small businesses help to tell their whole story. So that explains who's at the table. So let's go ahead and get started with our first question. There's some people that just keep running business as normal, and there's other people that are saying, hey, we're just go total radio silence and wait until this thing's over, or we're only going to talk about coronavirus. So I kind of want to just open it up to you guys. What should brands be focusing on and kind of doing right now that we have this captive audience that's doing really nothing but Netflix and social?
Anybody who's asking me for free advice right now around content marketing, this is kind of what I'm telling them. And I keep saying this over and over again: serve, don't sell. Serve, don't sell. This is the time to overserve your current clients and serve clients who haven't even engaged with you yet, customers who haven't even bought a single one of your products. Free value, free content, and not just like random sparse content, but rich, good things that are actually going to help them. Think about your persona's greatest need right now. Fill that need. Fill it with free content that will actually help them right now, that they can download and use in their business right now, that will actually be able to change the game for them a little bit during this really weird time. We know people aren't poised to buy right now. They're going to hold on to their money. But what you want to do is make sure that you're talking about your company values, what you bring to the table as a brand, culture, all these things, so that when they are poised to buy and when the economy does kind of bounce back here, hopefully sooner than later, when people are ready to buy, you're top of mind, because you want to be the kind of company that when this is all said and done, people think, I can't afford that right now, but when I can, I want that company. I want to work with those guys.
I can add to that. Well said. The other thing I would add to that and kind of enhance that idea is that when you think about advertising, right, it's the one purpose of generating revenue, generating income. But to go into that question as an answer of either or would not be the right approach. It's not all or nothing. What Savannah was just talking about was really awareness, right? It's what are you saying? What are you doing to still be top of mind with your ideal clients? So yes, you don't have to go full throttle like you used to, but you certainly don't have to cut it off where there's nothing. So yes, stay in front of your consumers, share those messages, share the value and opportunities he's talked about. Because it's at times like these where most companies, not all, but many, will go into this, and advertising and marketing is one of the first things people cut. And so we've had to look at that in our businesses as saying, well, let's take a different approach to it. There's other departments and other areas to cut, which it all stinks, right? Cutting anybody or any department or anything is always painful. So I'm not heartless. Don't hear me like that. But there's other cuts you can make that still allow you to keep your sales organization alive, your sales message out there, your advertising message out there, by making some other painful cuts. It's just, yes, you can throttle down, but stay in front of them. And social media is a great way to do that.
I heard a really good example of this the other day. I actually did a podcast last week with a company that's they do executive travel, right? So like really, really high end travel. And like, by the way, and I was about to get on the podcast with her, and I was like, oh, I just realized your entire company is practically shut down. And like, it just hit me. And so we talked about it, and what they did is they started a campaign where essentially they were talking about spreading joy, not Corona. And I thought it was great. What a good opportunity. And so they just used it as an opportunity to show their values, show that they were all about. And you're right, they're not shutting down at all. But by the time that this is all over and people are locked up in their house and ready to go on like a million vacations, they're going to be all over it.
Yeah, just like Savannah said and Mike said, is just keep your awareness out there. We have clients that we're really maneuvering right now through all this time of their messaging. Some of them are actually event companies or companies that have been affected. So we're kind of showing some successes of Flashback Fridays or Throwback Thursdays, things they've done in the past. Just to kind of keep their brand out there, but also what are they doing in the community to help and to support each other in their industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one thing that I know that has been a big topic for my clients is, I think I've had every single one of my clients email me at one point and ask, okay, we've been spending ads. Nobody's buying right now, right? Should we just stop spending ads? And so, Mike, I think I'm going to specifically throw this over to you.
Definitely, I don't think you completely stop. For some industries you might have to at this point, put a pause button on it, but for others is to maybe minimize the spending, during these slow times, but also be thinking about ramping up, because I keep on picturing this as a bunch of Kentucky Derby horses all in the gate. And as soon as we get the green light, we're all going to go. So this is the perfect time to be thinking about your digital strategy or warming up your spending budget as we get back into it, versus just like saying game on. Like, start working your way back into the groove of things that used to be, and whatever it looks like on the other side of this.
One thing that I've been telling my clients is it's almost like investing, right? We right now we could be losing money. There's a chance that at least it'll be stagnant. But imagine when it goes back up. That's when the opportunities really are there. And when we pull out of advertising, what it is that it's almost like starting over. It's like it's choosing to completely stop, and then when we're talking about things like Google, the companies that stay in are, believe me, it's gonna pay off in the end. And so I know that's what I've been telling my clients, and it's difficult because you're gonna see the analytics go down. There's no doubt.
We're not looking at this as like a 6-month approach. This is kind of what you're hinting at, right? We're gonna say, all right, today and for the next week, we think this is where we're gonna be. And then next week, we're going to look at it again, and we may have to make some more adjustments because there's just so much unknown, right? So we're not chopping everything to the absolute core, but we're making smart strategic decisions around, the planning of the agency and the company to say, all right, well, at this level, we can make this type of decision. But we're really monitoring it week to week because all the government funding, when is it coming? When are we going to get it? Are we going to get it? What's it going to look like? So all those decisions are in play that we're just not making any. Obviously, we're making hard decisions, but we're not making, an end of the year decision. We're really looking at this almost on a week to week basis.
So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is all of the events that have been canceled. All of basically, we have an entire industry that's having to figure out a digital way to pull this off. And I'll kind of put this over to you, Jim. You're huge on connection. I think every single day on your Instagram, you're like hanging out with this client, talking to this person. It's like I don't have the energy for that, which I wish I did. But how, with all of your experience in event planning, with all the people that you know in event planning, what is that looking like right now? And what's this kind of new world of digital events, going to be? Because if I can say this real quick, I remember I've been huge on digital events because you just totally widen your audience. But when you're talking about the amount of people that are almost kind of nervous that people won't show up to their event if they put too much on digital is something I've seen a lot. So can you talk a little bit about just kind of the state of that industry and what it means for marketing and branding for people's company?
Yeah. So, again, I come from the event background, hospitality background, and I know that so many companies are out there suffering. A lot of my friends have been either laid off or furloughed. So, my heart's definitely with them. But I do like watching a lot of these event companies and event vendors that I used to have, whether it's a caterer or tent company and all that stuff, how they're kind of pivoting and adapting to this time. And those are the ones I think that are doing an amazing job. On the digital event side, we've been contracted VCG for this year with over 24 events. A lot of the smaller ones were starting out in Q1 and Q2. We pushed the pause button or postponed those. We're trying not to cancel. We've only had to cancel one small event, which we actually now are back in talks about revamping that for sometime in the summer. Luckily for us, a lot of them were Q3 and Q4, and those are the bigger events, year-end events for either nonprofits or different functions. We also have some great partners. There's a studio in North Atlanta that has real-time editing. They do huge green screens, digital backgrounds. You could be looking like you're at, State Farm Arena or at Mercedes-Benz in the background, but you're actually in the studio there. They have the live streaming or recorded, but again, it's real fast turnaround. They're one of 3 studios in the country that have this technology, and it's right here in our backyard. We also have some other vendors that will come to your home in a safe way and help you create a live streaming from your home or a recorded studio within your house. So everybody's just getting really creative at this time. I was actually on the phone with a comedian earlier because we were doing this comedy show in May, but seeing what that would look like, as a digital event. Yeah. And when you're trying to have serious conversations with a comedian, it's really fun.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen Keith Urban did his show. Like he basically had so he has his show, and he had to cancel like a bunch of shows, but it's been the most hilarious thing because you see him, he's like rocking out in like some kind of warehouse with all this stuff, and you just see like these hands in front of the camera, and then every once in a while, all of a sudden you see like Nicole Kidman coming out, and she's like bar dancing, and it's like the cutest thing. She's like a total band girlfriend.
Yeah,
it's like pretty awesome. But I mean, even what we're doing right now, we're using a piece of software called Ecamm Live. Which is I would say it's like a step up from your standard Zoom, in that you get control over it. You can put graphics to it. You can put videos to it. All the kinds of things that you can roll bumpers, all that kind of stuff. And so I think that when people are thinking about digital events, I think the primary thing that they're nervous about is just the quality has got to go down. And what I've learned, and I've had years being an online pastor at my church. One thing I've learned about the kind of digital events is that it's all about the community and bringing them into it, and and even the quality matters, but it doesn't matter as much as being in the moment and everybody feeling like they're there. What are some of the strategies? I mean, this is some of the advantages of doing a digital event. What are some of the strategies that you use to kind of syndicate those events into social media content and blog content, things like that?
Well, it's perfect that you said syndicate, because that's kind of the whole process that we use when we have clients who do webinars and different various kinds of digital events, digital roundtables, whatever it may be. That's kind of where everything starts. And I kind of think about digital events as a cycle, because you start at the top and it's the actual event, the webinar, you host it, you post it, all that kind of stuff. And then from that, we make different types of content, whether that be graphics or small clips from a video, blog posts that explain what went on and gives more context and kind of goes deeper into things. We could turn it into an ebook. We could turn it into all different kinds of resources. And as that happens, all that starts getting put out on social, on the website, on your YouTube channel, all those places. And so there are people who obviously come to that live event, or even if it's not live, that digital event. There's a lot of people who won't come to that, but they do follow you on social media, or they do visit your website, and they see all this content. So it gets them on this half of that little cycle. So now they're interested. You want them to feel like, I missed out on something. This content is so good and so interesting to me because it's appealing to me as an audience, that I then want to go watch that digital event. So then you grabbed all these people who then end up at your digital events all together. And the people who actually went originally, they're reminded, even if you didn't kind of get them on the hook there, they're reminded of this as they continue to see this content. So it kind of creates this little cycle where you start here, but you keep getting people through the content. And then as they continue to come back, hopefully you continue to garner those leads and get your audience connected and engaged again through that main event. So it's a really great way to put a lot of effort behind it at first, but so much can be made out of it that it really, really is worth it.
Yeah, and I'll say something about this too, is that this is not like new strategies. I mean, these are essentially digital event strategies, or digital strategies that have been working for a really long time. It's just that some people just really haven't taken advantage of them, and so for some people this is brand new. And one thing I'll say too that I've noticed about digital events versus live events, there's an urgency. Because of the amount of plans you have to make about a live event. I've got to fly there. I got to get all the stuff together. I got to drive to the place. I got to get my tickets, that make you really prepare for it. And that's probably one thing that is something that people actually have to work on with these digital events, is that the amount of people that I've seen sign up for a webinar that I've planned for a client, and then they never show up, is like huge. And the reason is purely because it didn't take a whole lot of priority to sign up for it. Oops, I accidentally missed it. And so the amount of people that actually show up live is, it's going to be a fraction. Now, if you're really, really awesome about promoting it and made it just the perfect time, and maybe everybody's going to show up. But for the most part, you're going to get a huge segment that they're totally going to be there, just not when you actually held the event. And so, having a replay plan in place of how these, and we call them simulated live. Matter of fact, I work with a company called Rally that has a piece of software that actually takes YouTube videos and takes Vimeo videos and just all these different kinds of videos, and actually will simulate the conversation that's happening on the side, very similar to the way you would see it on Facebook or something like that, but it's happening in a simulated way. And can happen with like a pre-recorded webinar or something like that. And so that's something that I've seen, and I've seen it also work really well. Where I've seen it not work well is we have this live event. It's happening at 7:00. It happened, and then nothing happened from there.
Another point that comes to mind, if I can jump in, would be that there's two words that you mentioned: new, and Savannah mentioned worth it. So what's interesting to me is that. So if we've talked about the strategy with the small businesses we serve, again, many of their competitors, our competitors, your competitors, are hitting the pause on advertising, the pause on sales development, the pause on staying in front of their consumers, right? So is it worth it? Well, I don't have any science to back this up, but my gut is that if there's a large amount of people who are pulling back and hitting the brakes on marketing and sales, then to me, I think it's going to be more worth it, because in theory, like you're going to be reaching people when your competitors aren't. So it's even more. Could be more attractive today, because the new strategy is not giving up, right, and not hitting stop. Your ROI could be more worth it today Maybe not today, but the ROI, as we talked about, when this comes back, then it's going to be more worth it.
The biggest thing for me is trying to get it to where there is always going to be a very concrete call to action. So I'll use that as a for instance for something I've heard you guys talk about, what you guys do with your events, is that, okay, you have a personality, he's got all of these captive people, and from those, I know you guys have done this for a lot of your clients, you'll have them say, hey, by the way, text this or go to this website to get this particular resource. That's the exact same thing it is for really any kind of resource you give, especially events, is that when we're putting something out on Facebook Live or you're putting it out on LinkedIn Live or whatever, it's free content, and hopefully it's because you really care and you're really trying to add value to these people. But always have something that's almost a little better. It's like the solution to the issue you brought up. That is, whether it's a guide or whether it's a more a better webinar or an assessment or something that they can go to that they're going to actually give you a name for. And and again, it's not the hard sale, because you're not saying, okay, from this piece of content, if you want to call me and give me $30,000, I'd really appreciate it. You're not saying that. You're really saying, like, okay, I have more value to give you, and you're kind of moving them down that funnel.
And it may not be we're moving down the funnel, but to your point, you're asking, but it's a little softer, right? It's not buy now. It's if you'd like to learn more, or there's a softer approach, that we may consider instead of just going right for the as we normally would, right? Buy now or whatever. So yes, we're not giving up, but it can be a little softer to keep them moving through the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to bring this up to the kind of the entire group. This is kind of one of our last questions. We're sort of starting to wrap up. Typically, you're seeing most brands kind of heavily lean on just their logo or their overall brand message. And matter of fact, I think a lot of CEOs or VPs or would shy away from the idea of a personal brand, because maybe it feels like kind of self-serving. Like, you really do have to kind of be a special person to just be like, this is my personal brand. And it's difficult, and it's very easy to shy away from it. Right now, though, people are only seeing the overall logo or the overall organization. Mike, I'll kind of bring this to you. Is it important for people that have never had a personal brand before to start using this as an opportunity to have one?
Yeah, absolutely. And the question that we hear a lot is, who's going to care about what I have to say? Right. Which I appreciate the humble approach, right? But people connect with people, and like with VCG, right? Jim is kind of our front face, for us, which has its challenges, but we got. But people connect with people, right? And so when people get to know the face behind the brand, I mean, it becomes real. It's personable, and it's not just a logo or some service, right? People serve others, people connect with people, and it really is a unique opportunity to share your story, because every entrepreneur out there, every leader in a small business has a story. And 99% of the time, people who are buying your products don't know your story, but it's an interesting opportunity to share your story, your experiences, your successes, your challenges, and especially in this time, some encouragement about what you're feeling and experiencing, that all, at the end of the day, all support and represent and drive your brand awareness. But most importantly, it really enhances the relationship, because now it becomes personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Josh, we've seen a lot of that lately, and we've been blessed with a lot. Before this happened, and especially now that this is a season we're going through, is we've had a lot of CEOs that have been in their business, and their teams have been telling them, you need to be the face. Nobody knows who you are, and like Mike said, it's more relational, and some of them are amazing communicators. Others don't know what their speaking topics are, but we've rallied up a really amazing team, and even a team of people that have been on major stages speaking that are now our speaking coaches at BCG, helping these, to onboard these new faces of these amazing companies.
Well, and I'll bring this up to you, Savannah. I think just like you, Jim, I've definitely heard, I think for the most part, everybody knows that they probably should have some kind of personal brand. You're right. It's because they're in the business, and it's a case where things just get busy. What I'm really hoping that this season that we're in right now is going to do is it's going to force some people into some places they probably should have been for the last decade, but now they have to. I think that this idea of needing to have a blog but not having enough time for it, or needing to have their own social media channels and their way of being able to communicate with people, now they're sort of doing it out of necessity. So Savannah, how have you done that to help? Again, I'm using the word syndication, but how have you taken bits and pieces of what subject matter experts like CEOs have and kind of helped them flesh out that on social?
Yeah. So many of my clients over the years, just being in the content space, they have so much great expertise and thought leadership content in their heads, and they just don't know how to get it into a medium that people are actually going to read, listen to, watch, look at, that kind of thing. You're not a writer if you're a CEO, typically, unless you're in a really specific industry. You don't necessarily feel super comfortable. Some feel comfortable on camera, some don't. So it's really trying to find out how we can best pull all that great expertise and content out of their heads and then make it in a bunch of different forms where people can really latch onto it, so that not only do they get to know them on a personal level, because again, like Mike said, I love that people connect with people. It's just so true. But so they can actually be a part of the content that their company is putting out there and that their fingerprint is on it. But the other thing is they don't have time. A CEO doesn't have time to sit down and read a blog post. Like very, very rarely do they sit down and write their own content. So we've developed a few different strategies, and we've really personalized to the person how we're able to get that. There are people who literally pull up a voice memo and just send us, hey, I just had all these thoughts. I throw up, just like word vomit. Like, here's all these things I'm thinking. And we're able to turn that into content for them. Sometimes they just record themselves talking in a really like informal way, just like selfie video kind of thing. We have people who do enjoy bullet points, or are like, hey, all these resources I've been like reading and looking at are really, really good. Can we create something that's similar to this? So just really finding how we can get thought leadership and expertise out of CEOs, out of small business owners, and get that off of their plate, because if it's on their plate, they won't do it. So finding ways that we can make it easier for them and get it out of their head to create really, really quality content for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I've consistently told clients of mine is, especially if they're busy, it's like it's more important that the frequency is there, because sometimes they can get caught in this kind of decision analysis paralysis kind of thing, and they just it becomes months and then years, and they still haven't done anything. And it's like at a certain point, it's just like what processes do you have to put in place to make sure that it just happens? And so I know that that's something that you have been really good about helping your clients with. Well, I'll kind of start to wrap this up. Jim and Mike, and I really appreciate VCG kind of sponsoring this little roundtable. I think that it's, hopefully this is going to be something that's really valuable to people. And if anything, I like just hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. We'll hang out with you too.
Yeah. And cheers. But I think that, if you guys had one more kind of piece of advice, maybe we can kind of just go around, piece of advice for, just something that's maybe been top of mind for you. And you may have even already said it, but what would you kind of reemphasize to anybody listening today? Jim, you want to start?
Yeah, I would say time. This is a great time because, as Savannah was saying, a lot of people say they don't have time, but we all have a lot of time on our hands, right now. I mean, I was on a phone call yesterday, and I actually finally dusted that chandelier I've been wanting to dust for like a year. But just, pick up that phone, reach out to your team and your clients and your family. Just do that on a consistent basis for now. Also reach out to people that are hurting in their industry. Just reach out to, old contacts, old coworkers, old clients, because you never know where they are right now. Not that you're looking at everybody as a client, but, we do genuinely care for each other. We're humans. But just kind of see where they're at and how you can help them out during this time and see about rebuilding those relationships and keeping the relationships you have. But just communication is key. And I've never videoed calls so much in my life. I don't even know if I can go back to phone calls.
Yeah, I forgot what my legs look like.
I know.
Mike, what would you say to people that are listening today?
Yeah, mine would be more along the lines of personal, and that for me, it's I would say shut the TV off, and just and have some hope. Right? I mean, it is a challenge. We're gonna get through it. You're going to make smart decisions on almost a weekly basis. But I mean, it's okay to be strategic and smart in your planning, but have some hope, right? It's not an either or. It's not a all or nothing would be the better. But to have some hope and keep hope in the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Savannah, what would you tell everybody?
Yeah, I would just keep saying, just keep serving your clients however you think that is going to benefit them most. Just keep putting, like, empathy, I think, is so big in the situation. Keep putting yourself in your client's shoes and your customer's shoes. Think about what they need and how you can help. And that's going to look different across every industry and business. But how can you help them right now? How can you be a partner for them? How can you be a resource for them? And make that your content strategy right now. Like, create content that really, really benefits them right now and shows them that you really care. And don't be afraid to really be authentic and personal. Don't be afraid. I know it's, for all of my clients, really, like, the behind the business sort of mentality is really hard for them. But don't be afraid to jump on Instagram stories and talk about what's going on. Like, yeah, it's not going to be great the first time. Like, just like anything, the first time you do it isn't good, but just start. Like, literally just start. Because I promise you, your customers and your clients, they want to hear from you. They want to know you and they want to connect with you. So just keep serving them, keep showing up for them. And yeah, I love that. Have some hope. We're going to bounce back from this. It is all going to be okay. It really is.
Yeah, I love the example that I always use when clients ask me about, like, well, I don't really want to go on live because I can't, it's unpredictable. I was like, one time I was watching Chuck Norris go live. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. And Chuck Norris he basically, the first half of it is he's basically going, he goes, he starts off and he goes, is this thing on? I don't know if is anybody going to even watch this? Blah, blah, blah. And then they go, you're live. And he goes, this is Chuck Norris. And it was the most awesome Chuck Norris thing. Yeah, absolutely. I'll just kind of pipe in here for a second. I love this idea of naive optimism. It's just this idea that it's like, it could be pretty scary. Sometimes when we have an idea, there's a lot of, black hat reasons that it's not going to work out and all this kind of stuff. But we just, the naive optimists are usually typically the ones that make it. When you look at the people that have really succeeded, it's because they just, for some reason, thought it was going to work. And they kind of push through, even though it didn't really make a lot of sense and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean you ignore things that are really important or ignore facts or anything like that, because you don't want to make bad decisions. But at the same time, if you're always kind of living out of fear, then it's really difficult sometimes to bounce back from that. Hey, Jim, I'll give you a little elevator pitch right now. Can you tell everybody just as we're ending, what does VCG do, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much. Again, thanks for having us on this. So VCG Experience Company is what we call it. It's about you and your companies, your brands, experiences. So everything from, social media management, digital marketing, advertising, to live events, grand openings, digital events. So just kind of whatever your experience is, your marketing strategy, if you need something outside the box, we are relational. There's only a handful of us. We call each other by name, our customers even. We're not going to treat anybody like a number.
Yeah. 002. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I think if you want to know more about VCG, you can go to vcgexperience.com and find out more about the kinds of experiences they can offer, and when it comes to social media, web experiences, funnels, all things like that. And thanks so much for joining today. Again, my name's Josh Webb. Thanks for letting me be your host. Is that what we'll call me? Anyway, we'll see you if we have another one. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.